Hey, good morning and welcome to another episode of The Local Voice. My name is Jeff Harris. I'm your host. I own a company called Swing Point Media here in the Coachella Valley. We help service local business owners who need help with digital marketing. A couple things that are very unique about today's Local Voice. One, it's live. Normally, our shows are recorded. And two, it is a video podcast. We normally do audio podcasts. And then there's a bonus third. I have a guest today, and he is a local gentleman who is in part of a group that I'm in called the BNI group. And he focuses on helping small businesses with their payroll and HR issues. And I'm really excited to have him on the show today. Let's invite on the show Steve Mann. Hey, Steve, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Jeff. How about yourself?
Good. I see you got your Cal Berkeley sign up there. Is that a fan favorite?
It's actually my alma mater, and my apologies, Jeff. I wasn't. I didn't know where we were going to go live right off of the bat. So otherwise, I might have removed that from the background. But hey, no
That's
problem.
okay. I don't think anybody's gonna sign off because there's a Cal Berkeley bear on the wall. So I think we're good to go. So how you doing today, Steve?
I'm doing great, Jeff. Had just came back from an HR breakfast, so it was really interesting.
Oh, fantastic! Hey, before we get started, just take a couple minutes and tell us about you, and then and exactly what you do with Southland Data Processing and how that plays into local business owners.
Okay, well, just a little bit about myself. Been a resident of my wife and I, Patricia, have been a resident of the Coachella Valley for 9 years now. No children, however, our pets are our children. We have 2 cats and a horse. Hobbies, if you aren't seeing me in the office, in the summertime would be golf, and in the wintertime would be skiing. Let's see. I've been with Southland Data Processing for about 1.5 years now. Southland Data Processing is locally based payroll and HR services company based in Upland. And so we help businesses streamline payroll processes, improve HR compliance. And my role really, being a resident of the Coachella Valley, is just to help increase SDP's visibility in the Coachella Valley, and really by reaching out to smaller businesses. Our target market is really businesses with employee size of 1 to 100 employees. So we try to cater to the smaller businesses that maybe don't have dedicated people doing payroll and HR, and we try to remove that headache for them to allow them to pursue their passions. Do what they love.
Well, so often, Steve, small business owners will try to have probably like their CPAs take care of their payroll. And I know from having that done with my accountant we've had for 25 plus years. He makes an exception because both my wife and I have a corporation and we are single employees. So he says anything more than that, he won't do it because it's such a headache and it really takes specialized knowledge. So, for those of you who may be listening and saying, hey, I have my payroll done by my accountant, there's probably a better path, isn't there, Steve?
Yes, there is. Just as you, I would say your experience and the circumstances under which you had your CPA do your payroll is very, I would say, it's symptomatic or emblematic of how most people have a CPA do their payroll. And so thinking about it from the CPA's perspective, they often do it because their clients have asked them or expected them to do it. And so it was kind of a path of least resistance. Maybe the CPA thought that by doing it, it would facilitate access to payroll information come tax time, doing filings and things like that. But the reality is much like small business owners, CPAs do not enjoy doing payroll processing. And not to say that CPAs are all in it for the almighty dollar or anything like that. But the reality is it's for someone that isn't doing payroll for a living, it's not profitable for most CPAs, and it's time consuming. So I would say that most CPAs that I know, they would appreciate a way to maybe offload that burden. I would say I've not run into any CPAs that are actively taking on new payroll clients.
If you had to compare an accountant doing their job as taxes and and whatnot and payroll? Is it like almost, if you think about math, it's like algebra and geometry, and it really takes specialized knowledge in both?
That's a really good that's a really good analogy, Jeff, and I would concur with that. That it does take specialized knowledge, and so again, for that reason, it's not something that CPAs really appreciate doing. I'd say it's more of a, if they're doing it, it's more of a sense of duty to their clients.
Yeah, and I'm not definitely want to put you on the hot seat and say, hey, if you're a CPA, you shouldn't be doing payroll. I'm not saying that. You know, there's a lot of people out there who do that, right? But just understand that both have their specialties. And Steve, you work with those. You said between 1 and 100, and those sounds like, it sounds like 100 employees sounds like a lot, but when you put it in the scope of most major businesses, that's not a lot of employees, is it?
No, not really. I mean, if you think about, even though I say that that's our target market, our largest client is over 3,000 employees operating in multiple states. And there certainly are, if you think of like, say, Fortune 1000 companies, you're talking about businesses that tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. So yes, you are right that 100 employees, well, certainly maybe large to a business that only has that has less than that is maybe not huge in the overall scheme of things.
Well, the reason I wanted you on today is a couple of reasons. One, to get to know you a little bit better and let the people out there understand that they have choices out there, because we hear of some organizations out there that have been around a while or whatnot with other 3-letter acronyms for their names, but you do something a little different. Tell us a little bit about ADP, or excuse me, SDP instead of ADP. And because I think you do something, I really like it. The first time I met you and you told me about this, I'm like, wow, that is a unique characteristic. What is that?
Well, that is that we commit that we will tailor our solution to the specific needs of each client. And maybe the folks out there that do know something about payroll might say, "Hey, big whoop, Steve. What is there? What subtleties are there to payroll? You're cutting checks and you're paying taxes." But there are quite a few variables and maybe we don't have time to go in today, but just suffice to say that there are a lot of things to take into account. So we take the time to adopt a consultative approach, listen to the client, just try to understand what they're doing today, what they might like to be doing, what they see themselves doing in the future, and come up with an appropriate solution. So really, the idea is that they'll only be paying for what they need. And by contrast, some of the larger houses are very fond of offering a prepackaged bundle of services, and they're pitched by doing that. And hey, I'm be the first to say it is popular among a large demographic, because what they're saying is, hey, this is everything that you need for your payroll or your HR needs. And that might be true, but sometimes nobody wants to be given a big toolbox of 100 different tools when they only need 10 of them. And then maybe the thought might be going into someone's head that, hey, am I paying for stuff, for services that I don't really use? And so yes, I think that that is something we take some pride in, that every one of our clients can say that they have a solution that is specific to the needs of their organization.
Well, that's interesting you talk about that, because it kind of flips the idea of customization being expensive on its head. You're saying, instead of, hey, just get this whole toolbox of things you don't, 90% of it you may never need, but you're paying for it, instead of saying, let's just get you the 10 tools you need and know that if you expand and you grow, we have those other tools as you need them. And so the thought of customization sounds expensive, but it's probably going to save you money. And let's face it, stress and anxiety of trying to figure out what to do with all these extra tools. Is that fair to say?
I think that is fair to say. I couldn't have said it better myself, Jeff. And I would say too that to your point, that part of listening and understanding where a business is looking to go is being sensible about what services we're putting together with an eye towards the future. And just another thing about Southland Data Processing, we've we've been in business for over 38 years. We're in our 38th year of business. So we're pretty good at this, over 2,000 clients, as well. So we do a lot of the partners that we use that have integrated services. Everything works seamlessly within our platform. So when something can get something needs to get added in later on, it's a very seamless process.
Well, you mentioned something yesterday in our meeting that really got my attention, and it really comes back to that, well, if I work in that environment all the time, I have everything's going on there is under a microscope. And if it affects my clients, I can tell them. And you said something yesterday, and I'm not going to try to reinvent it because I don't remember the specific, but it was about a violence. It was about a violent code or a new program that we as business owners, if we have employees, it's no longer even an option. And that the fact that not only will you help put this in, but you'll also expose us and help us understand what that is. What exactly was that, Steve?
That's true. So the appropriate name of it is the Workforce Violence Prevention Plan. So this is something I'd say again, you're indicative of the general public. Not a lot of businesses are aware of it, but the reality is that starting July 1st of this year, most businesses are going to be required to have a written workplace violence prevention plan, maintain a violent incident log, and provide workplace violence prevention training to its employees. So this is not something that was made up by it's a Cal OSHA regulation, and this requirement applies to nearly all California employers.
Wow. To me, when you say that, and I'm glad that, my wife and I are both one person, one employee, I'll sit down with her. She'll sit down with me. We'll get this thing covered. But for the most part, it's like, whoa, here comes another regulation that as a business owner, I don't have time to understand it. I don't have time to put it together. And now I have to train my employees for that. How can Southland Data Processing help with that?
Okay. So we have two options available for businesses out there. The first option is a self-guided, user-friendly template that can be customized to many, again, of these smaller businesses. I would say for this, maybe think of maybe under 15 or 20 employees. It should do a very good job of being able to meet that business's needs. So the second option would be a little bit more of a customized plan that would involve some live consultation and support with our HR professionals that would work directly with the business to create and customize their workforce violence prevention plan. So two options to meet maybe two different types of needs, and these are be clear, these are a la carte options. Someone does not need to be an existing SDP client. They aren't required to sign up to become an SDP client in order to take advantage of these. It can be a one and done, and then it can be on their way if they so choose.
Wow, that is a great option. I didn't know that. I know you only had 60 seconds to talk about it yesterday, but that's an interesting play saying, well, I don't have to change my payroll company, or if I don't have a payroll company, but I can enlist Southland Data Processing to help me roll this program out to my existing staff. I think that's a great idea. Do you know the time frame? It comes out July 1st, but what's our adoption period before there's probably fines and things of that nature that pop up? Do you know that?
Great question. I'm sure that's probably the first question that any business owner would ask. So if we want to be to the letter of the law, starting July 1st is when that requirement takes place. So that could technically be the time that a business, if it did not have this plan in place, could potentially be subject to fines. And let's not talk about the reasonability of the level of fines, but that they just say that they can easily run into the thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. Now the reality is, let's face it, like a lot of things, maybe a lot of smaller businesses, if there's small business owners listening to this and saying, well, I can fly under the radar, and very well could. I think that I don't want to make a generalization, and hope, and maybe nobody from OSHA will actually listen to this, but it's my understanding that if history is a teacher, what OSHA sometimes will do in a circumstance like this is they'll find a somewhat medium to high profile business, one that people know about. You know, that if you could say, hey, so and so, if you name the company, a lot of people in the area would know about them, and they might go audit them and check on them and see if they have it, and if they don't have it, they're going to find them. And so it can be it can be like, hey, they're doing this, they're actually checking, and this could happen to you. That tends to be their approach. I think it would not be correct to say that they're going to have people canvassing every tiny business immediately starting July 1st. So I would say that I think the good news is there is time, but I would say at the same time, don't use that. If you want to think about it as a bit of a cushion, don't just waste that thinking, well, they're never going to come to me. You know, take some steps to at least research, what your options are, and you might find that I feel like our services are very reasonable. I'll even just mention the price here.
Yes, please do. Yeah.
For the template, it's $500, and for the more customized plan with involving our HR team, it's $1,500. So that's a one-time fee. Oh, I will say $1,500 per location. Sometimes the more complex needs, have multiple locations, so that is $1,500 per location. But that's it. And I think relative to if the businesses are always basing decisions on risk reward, boy, if you're talking about a fine that could easily run into the thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, I think that is pretty that is a pretty good represents a pretty good investment in terms of protecting your business.
Yeah, Steve, I think $500 for that self-guided template, if you will, is a great option for those real small business. Maybe they have 4 or 5 employees, but they still have to have this in place, right? There's not an exception.
Yes. Well,
and
so let since we do have a little more time, let me give you the exceptions.
Okay.
It's a very narrow band, so I will lead by that. So the exceptions include healthcare employers who are covered by the state's workforce violence prevention plan standard. It would be remote employees working at a location not controlled by the employer, and work sites with fewer than 10 employees that are not open to the public. Now, that's a key phrase. A business with fewer than 10 employees might stop reading after they see that first part, but not open to the public. So that means that if you say that you're not open to the public, but if you exist in a strip mall or an office space that can have visitors or workers from other businesses walking by your front door, then you are going to be you need to get the plan.
Well, before I let you go, Steve, I want you to do me a favor. First of all, I think the $500 option or the $1,500 per location with you coming in and customize it for those locations, I think that's a screaming deal. Not only because if there was a $1,500 fine or a $1,500 training program that you customize, I would take the $1,500 training all day long, because one, it has no stress. The other one is nothing but stress. When you get that fine in the mail, or somebody knock on your door and says, by the way, you don't have this in place, here's a fine. That's extremely stressful, and it disrupts the whole program. For the same fee, or probably half or a quarter or a tenth of it, you can control it. You can be the captain of your ship and have Southland Data Processing come in and have that handled. Do me a favor, and as you do this, I'm going to add this to our screen. If you could do me a favor and just tell me, how do we get a hold of you and Southland Data Processing?
Sure. My contact information, I'll give you my direct number, which is 909-239-2653. That's my mobile.
Okay.
I'm available via email at steve.mann, M-A-N-N, at sdppayroll.com. Those are the 2 best ways to get a hold of me.
sdppayroll.com. All right. So let's put that. So it's 909-239-2653 or steve.mann@sdppayroll.com, correct?
That is correct. And looking at it there, yes, you got it.
Great.
Oh,
Well, Steve,
hold it.
no, I see. I spelled payroll wrong, didn't
Okay,
I?
there you go.
Let's swap out a
And
Y.
then actually my the first letters of my first and last name are not capitalized, so everything's lowercase.
Okay. Let's get that right. Well, Steve, is there anything else? I'm going to have you back because I know there's a lot going on that we want to talk about. But I want to ask you if there's anything else we missed today about that particular new thing coming. Because let's face it, that has a short fuse on it. That's just a few weeks away. Well, it's less than 2 weeks away, right? That hey, we have to be compliant with this.
That is true. So maybe the last thing that I'll say is one of the other things that we're known for is a complimentary consultation. So like everything that if you are maybe you're a small business that would like to believe that somehow you're not subject, that you aren't, that this is not a requirement that applies to you, I would say reach out, give me a call anyways. If I agree with you, I will tell you that. There's I think one of the things with being a smaller business is, at least what I feel, I can't afford to have one unhappy, dissatisfied customer out there who is saying Steve Mann misrepresented his services, was a little fast and loose with the facts, anything like that. I mean, I want to under promise, over deliver at every turn. So I would say if anyone, we will always offer our first meeting with anybody, and probably even the second would be complimentary. To just be sharing information, so you have that, just so you know what your options are.
I think that's great. It's like test driving a car. We don't have to buy the car before we get it and test drive it. Let's test drive it, find out if it really works for us. Let's move around, make sure the seat belts are comfortable. Same thing with Steve Mann and Southland Data Processing. It's an opportunity to say, hey, let's find out if we're a good fit. And I think the other thing that you mentioned is with this particular thing coming down the pike, if you will, July 1st, this may be a great opportunity to say, hey, let's schedule that, even though I'm not a current client, and find out if I'm compliant the way I am because of my pay or my staffing situation, or if I need to get this in place and give myself a little bit of time. Please do not try to be like, all I can think about is you're in a building and you're trying to stop a bomb and you're under 5 seconds and you're trying to figure this out. Don't do it. Get a bomb specialist. That's I guess if that's the case, Steve Mann with Southland Data Processing, and have that handled. Steve, I just want to thank you so much for being here today. Again, you can get a hold of Steve at 909-239-2653, or if you want to give him an email, steve.mann, MANN, @sdppayroll.com. Steve, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, Jeff.
Hey, it was another great show here with Steve Mann. And, this is a place where you can come as a small local business owner and say, hey, what can I, a lot of times I talk about marketing, but this is about keeping your business in line with some of the state regulations and federal regulations that you have to comply with. California's full of them. We know that. This is a new one coming down the line. You need to know what is violence in the workplace? What is it? Is it because somebody pointed a finger at you? Don't guess. Get a hold of Steve Mann at Southland Data Processing, 909-239-2653, or give him an email at steve.mann@sdppayroll.com. Hey, thanks for joining me again. Again, my name is Jeff Harrison. We'll see you again next week. Take care.